Welcome back to another Creating Magic Minisode. I'm Danny, and today we're here with Russell and Katie.
Hello!
Hi!
Tonight was the release of the first 3 episodes of Rings of Power on Amazon Prime.
Hour-long episodes. None of them really, skippable.
They're not skippable, but also I don't recommend watching them back to back to back.
I guess it depends. Yeah, if you are, I guess for me, it doesn't count because
Right.
Lord of the Rings, everything. So, I pick up that stuff right away. But yeah, I think for most people, an episode a day, because you need some time to process. A lot happens.
I'll wait till you have some time.
I kind of have to watch these episodes twice because I can watch it once and be kind of analytical and pick at stuff that Tolkien didn't write, or stuff that I don't think really fits into the way that Tolkien interpreted things or my interpretation of the way that Tolkien wrote things. And then another time just to enjoy how beautifully shot and acted this is, because it's all just so pretty. And the people who put the show together, it's obviously such a labor of love. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yes, it's very pretty. The music is, as always, gorgeous.
Bear McCready!
So much singing. It's so beautiful.
You put Bear McCready's name on something, you know it's going to be on fire. Love it.
Yes.
Yeah, season 2 is already just as beautiful as season 1. It's gorgeous to look at the very least.
Which is interesting because it was not shot in New Zealand. Everything about season 2 is shot in London, whereas the first season was entirely shot in New Zealand. So this is stagecraft versus, the kind of big open sets that they had previously.
It's also cinematography.
It's just shot very well.
Yes, very well. The costuming, I've always loved the costuming of this whole series.
There's a costume in particular at the end of episode 2 that Elrond is wearing that I want to make so badly. It was such a good look. But before we get there, we got to talk about the first episode. It was called Elven Kings Under the Sky. So it's important to keep in mind that the way that Tolkien wrote the way that the Rings of Power were created, the Elven Rings came last, specifically to avoid most of what happens in episode 1, where the elves are kind of trying to figure out if it's safe to put the rings on because Sauron was there when they were made, and is this really the right choice that we're making? They could be corrupted, they could be influenced. Elrond takes this massive moral leap against everyone. His really intense moment where it's everyone has betrayed him in a way that he's having trouble processing. And I had 2 thoughts when that happened. 1, it's a shame this didn't actually happen in the books. And 2, how do you have an experience like that and then not kick Isildur into the fire later on when he's got that ring? They managed to capture just that intensity and the drama of the moment, that I really enjoyed. That just also got a weird turnaround with the Harfoots and the stranger, in that Poppy has joined the party, which almost makes me a little tiny bit sad for Poppy, because I loved her story in the last season, and I felt like it had this kind of natural ending where she was becoming a leader in her community by being the next trail finder, because she could interpret the map when Malva got it wrong. And so I took that as she found her place with her people after her family had been lost. What a great end point for that story. I was very wrong.
She was not way too popular.
Yeah, well,
that character
she's so great, and she
favorite.
bounces off of Nori so well.
Yeah, they're a really good duo.
Yeah, the 2 of them, they're so good together. So I'm happy that she's back. It just made that little bit of that story. I was a little bummed out by her not getting that ending, unless she gets it later.
I was just laughing at the fact that she's still singing the song "Nobody Goes Off Trail and Nobody Walks Alone," but she literally did that to get to them.
She definitely walked alone for quite a while. A small kick out of we got this 5-minute scene where they're wandering in the desert, and they're just surely we've got to be there soon. And Poppy comes up behind him no, you guys actually aren't that far away. I caught up to you super quick. Y'all are lost as hell.
You're not convinced that that's Gandalf, the stranger?
We can't do that in 15 minutes. No, I don't think I could spend 15 minutes just talking about why that shouldn't be Gandalf. So
you wanted to talk about Rune and how we don't know anything.
So yeah, so that's kind of the cool thing is that Tolkien didn't write a ton about Rune and as a place. We knew it was there. We knew that the people there kind of leaned more dark than other places. And eventually Sauron goes and unites them all into a single army to come and do stuff. But everything in between is kind of up in the air, so that they've got a genuine sandbox to play with that area, and they're doing a lot of fun stuff with it. All of the people that we have met from that area so far, they're all pretty evil, but they're interesting. I want to know more about them. I guess when you're talking about your standard villain in the Tolkien world, they're usually pretty ignorable because there's a leader of some kind around.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case here. Like each one of the people that I saw was like, I want to know more about you,
Mhm.
which is unique in the way that Tolkien tends to write, or that Peter Jackson and them tend to capture like armies of people. Episode 2, Where the Stars Are Strange. This has been kind of the whole bit with the dwarves right now is kind of interesting to me because a lot of this stuff is stuff that wasn't something that Tolkien had written. The Second Age plays out a little differently for the dwarves, but I have been in love with Durin and Disa. Like the moment they were on screen, Sophia Nombede's eyes deserve like a separate acting credit. She is so intense with her
Even just their
gaze.
chemistry together, it's so
They
cute.
play off
I
one
love
another
it.
so well, even
He
when
is
they're
one of my favorites in the series.
they are such a great couple. They work so well together. Every time they're on screen, I'm always having a good time. I could do a whole show with just them. Like it's so good. And it's interesting to see her take way more of like a lead so
Mhm.
far in this show, where she's not the housewife
Right.
that we were introduced to. She has like political gears of her own,
Mhm.
and she's very much like nudging her husband in the direction that she thinks that he should go. Part of me worries that is kind of writing yourself into a hole where releasing the Balrog becomes Disa's fault, because
Ooh.
I don't like that.
No, I don't
No.
like
But
that.
I like the like woman in power, kind of using the system that is in front of her to get what she wants. I think it will be the sort of general greed of the dwarves that leads to the Balrog getting released. I don't think it's going to be like a one person thing, but
Yeah.
I like where that is going a lot.
I really enjoy that storyline. I love watching like the
Yeah,
set in there too when they're like in the mountains and it's just so pretty.
it's so pretty. It's such a well thought out, like area to build and record in. I very much enjoy it. We also saw the character that we should have seen in place of Halbrand. Because Halbrand is not a character that Tolkien ever wrote about. And when at this point in time, what we had the whole time in Tolkien's writings was Antar, who is presented as this like angelic emissary from the gods themselves to steer Lord Celebrimbor.
Just a gorgeous elf.
That was the whole goal.
Which
Was
is
to.
upsetting because like it's the same face and you're staring at it and you're like, oh wow.
Did you not find Charlie Vix attractive as Halbrand?
No.
Fascinating.
Not my type.
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah, so I think there's I'm really glad that we're going in that direction. There's this plays very much into the thing that Gil-galad says in the first episode, where Sauron, once he's into your mind, he can kind of continue. And you saw that happen, right? Like you saw like with a single sentence, he grabbed Celebrimbor and just had him. Like you could
Yeah.
just tell he just had him.
It was instant.
So it was so cool to see that exactly what Gil-galad described just play itself out
I
beat
was
by
on
beat.
the edge of my seat for that though, because I knew exactly what was happening. I knew how much of a snake he was, and I was just listening. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's so good!"
Yeah.
Like it's exactly how you described him.
Yeah, it is very intense. And Charlie Vix is doing such a good job being that seething kind of frustrated that this isn't going faster, but still trying to remain kind of polite and composed. I actually do want to take a minute and say we have a different actor playing Adar from this season. The guy Joseph Mawle, who was playing Adar in the first season, didn't opt to come back,
Oh.
so they brought this other person in to do this role. I think he's absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
I think he understands like the mannerisms and the character and kind of the language to use, but he's very much not trying to pretend to be Joseph Mawle. This is still like
Mhm.
very much his version of Adar, but he's doing it in this deeply correct way compared to
Which
the
I
version.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Like as an actor, so much work must have gone into like figuring out how to make this your own character and also be respectful of the guy who
Right.
came before you.
Yeah.
And like hats off. He's absolutely nailing it. Eagle and the Scepter. We are back in Numenor and stuff is awful.
Yeah.
So much happening.
I would like to say I did not appreciate the spiders.
No, I wasn't sure where you were. I was gonna like text you. I'm like, there needs to be a trigger
Yeah.
warning on this
I
episode
gave
of
warning ahead of
spiders.
time. There are definitely spiders pretty early in that episode.
Mm.
The positive out of that entire scene, though, is that Beric the horse had a higher kill count than most of the characters that we have seen on screen so far.
This horse is amazing.
The war horse of Numenor currently has like a higher kill count than Elrond, like, which is just a funny thing to think about in context. Yeah, that was Beric did some John Wick nonsense for a minute there, and that was
Yeah.
very funny. I was really concerned about how they were going to do this, because as it is originally written, Azon takes power from Miriel by forcing her to marry him, is the way that Tolkien wrote it. I did not love the idea of seeing that play out on screen. And when they showed it last season, it made it clear that, they were playing it as like one cousin trying to usurp the other and not,
Mhm.
something gross. To be clear, This was not Tolkien being like, what if the cousins were banging? It was expressly forbidden by Númenórean law for him to do this thing, and it caused like a whole big thing within their kingdom. But he ended up winning in the end, and he took that power and did some, well, we'll see in coming episodes what he does with it. But yeah, bad day for Miriel.
Yeah.
Not great at all. And how insane is it that Elendil has two sons that are like devout, spiritual, like follow the elves no matter what, like my spirit is being called in this direction, and one daughter that's just got two middle fingers up. What are your thoughts about the eagle scene in the coronation?
Who, like, I know it's supposed to be a sign, but it feels like it was set up, but who was I don't know. And the fact he came out wearing the like other color that he was like recommending, I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah, no, he set that up 100%.
Yeah.
Like he by pushing that he thought she would wear the red, he knew that she would pick the white. Like that is the like the mechanics of all of this.
Yeah,
He
I was like, I don't like you.
decision. The one thing that both Peter Jackson did in the Lord of the Rings films, and we're seeing JD do here, the great eagles can speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're capable of
Yeah.
speech. Like this is like a super well documented thing that we just don't do in like the recorded version of Tolkien stuff. If that great eagle was sent for Miriel,
Right.
the eagle would have just been like, "Why are you in front of me?
Like, who are you?
Go away.
Right.
I'm here for that one."
Mm-hmm.
And like that would have been the end of it. Like that would have been
Yeah.
the end of that cover. I think I don't understand it. I you know, if I got a chance to ask somebody one question,
Yeah,
it'd
why
just be like,
can't
why
they speak?
why aren't the eagles speaking? That's a very strange thing. Also, slight glance at Ents. Oh, right, Treebeard. It had to have been Ents. Like we didn't
Yeah.
actually see one, but you hear it and then snatched up, and like that had to have been an Ent.
Can we talk about the baby orcs? That was weird to me. I'd
Yeah.
never seen like a baby orc in family.
Yeah, so this is really, really, really early on in like the creation of the orcs.
Yeah.
In that everyone that you see is like the first generation of that thing, most likely, because it was like humans that were corrupted and you know kind of elves that were corrupted, and you know kind of built. But if she became an orc while pregnant, all of the
Gotcha.
same stuff would have happened to the kid.
Okay.
What is your feeling on the series so far?
I think it's gorgeous. I think it's a fun show.
Fun seems like a strong, like there's a lot of fighting. Like I don't know if fun's my word.
I think it's great fun. I don't know. Disagree.
There are, so as someone who has read these books for like 30 years, right? The things that like when you read that kind of stuff for that long, you kind of dream about are these like scenes in between that didn't like they're not on the page, they're not written, but you're kind of like, you know, there are a bunch of those moments in this show that make me really happy. My favorite example from the last season is there is a scene where Galadriel and Isildur are talking on the deck of the ship. That conversation never happened. Tolkien never wrote that those two had a conversation, but they had to have known one another. Like that
Right.
must have been a thing that happened. So it's completely plausible that conversation would have existed in their world, and it just like I was genuinely emotional about it. It was very cool, like to see that conversation as a thing that was not just my imagination. So there's like for someone like me, there's a ton of moments like that in this that I'm super here for. And the actors that are doing this are like they literally read the Silmarillion together,
Yeah.
like in between shooting sessions. Like these are people
like you
who, yeah, these are people who like they are in love with this thing that they are doing, and when you have that, it's always going to be, you know, better than it could have been otherwise.
Katie, what are you looking forward to?
Tom Bombadil.
If Tom Bombadil doesn't sing,
Yeah, I know. I have been looking forward to
JD
Tom
Payne and I
Bombadil
are going to have
forever.
words.
I mean, we've had so many. It would be very disappointing if he doesn't, knowing how much music that is sung that we have had already in 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, we better get a song, at least one.
We know two things about Tom Bombadil. His boots are yellow and he sings.
I know this was a quick one. If people want to ask questions, share their opinions, have questions that we want to add into the podcast episode that will be a lot longer and not so quick, just drop them in the comments.
Yeah.
And then thank you, Katie and Russell, for always joining me on my Lord of the Rings
Always.
adventures. So until next time, keep creating.